Today we're here for this organ crawl, and as I was saying a little bit earlier, today's technically the beginning of our 35th series of our organ concerts, but obviously we're not having that today. But it's a blessing that both Blake and I can be here and that you can be here, and so thank you for taking time today to learn a little bit about our lovely Flentrop organ. So, this organ was built in 1971, and it was installed in the spring of 1972, and its first service was Pentecost Sunday of 1972. And we will be celebrating the 50th birthday of this organ next year. And I've been doing lots of research and reading some vestry notes that one of our vestry members has given me, and I've gone through some of the files about the organ and lots of interesting tidbits about the history of the Flentrop and some of the challenges of actually securing it here for the parish back in the 1960s. But that information will be coming later. So Blake's going to ask me some questions, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'll beg your all indulgence. I'm going to be running back and forth to make sure people are all admitted who are in the waiting room. So forgive me, but I'm really pleased that George is willing to do this, and I'm really pleased to be your rector at a church with a real treasure like this that we've got here, this Flentrop organ. And just to set the stage a little bit for what we're going to talk about, we're going to get into some really interesting and inside views of this organ. But just to start off, I thought I would start by peppering George with questions an idiot priest might ask about an organ who doesn't know a thing about organs. So I guess I'll keep an eye on this and make sure this isn't any longer than 5 minutes or so we can get to the good bits. But would you help me understand what is the difference, for example, between an organ and a piano? Both of them have keys. Why an organ versus a piano? They sound different, but I couldn't tell you why that is necessarily.
All right, good question. All right, so a piano is a percussion instrument because inside of the piano we have what are called hammers, and they hit the string. So that's a percussion instrument. With an organ, a pipe organ, it's a wind instrument in that the sound that's created is created by wind going through pipes and going through the mouth of a pipe. And that's basically the difference.
So an organ is like a giant box of flutes.
Well, you've got flutes, and you've got strings, and you've got reeds.
Wait,
and
strings?
Principles. Yes, strings.
How can you have a wind instrument play strings?
Well, because the pipes are string pipes. They sound like strings, or they're supposed to, they give you that lush quality. Now, this organ in particular has a string stop. It's called a Gemshorn. That's a string stop.
What kind of horn?
It's called a Gemshorn.
Gemshorn.
Gemshorn, as the Dutch say. But it doesn't really sound like a string.
Okay.
Because this organ is not a romantic organ. It's a neo-Baroque organ.
So romantic organs have strings, but Baroque organs don't so much.
Not so much, but some Baroque organs do have string stops.
Why
some Baroque organs have celestes.
Right. Well, why do some Baroque organs have strings, but most don't?
Because that's a good question. I can't really answer that per se. But it was not in the style of the Baroque period. But some organs did have a string stop and even a celeste. And I just learned that last summer when we were in Germany. It's the first time I've seen a celeste on a Baroque organ.
Gosh, what is a celeste?
A celeste is a rank of pipe that's are tuned sharp. So it gives you this sort of quasi movement, undulating effect.
Oh, interesting. So it's deliberately out of tune.
It's deliberately out of tune.
Oh gosh, imagine.
Imagine.
What kind of sound does a celeste make?
Warm and fuzzy. It's like a big teddy bear.
Yeah. Great.
But we don't have that on this one.
We don't have that on this one. Okay. So if it's a whole box of flutes and strings and other things, they're all pipes. How does that work? How do you play pipes with a keyboard?
Well, the first thing you need are people pumping the organ so it can get wind.
I suppose you need air,
You
right?
need air.
Right, okay.
But we don't have that here. The parish decided they didn't want to do that, so they put in electricity.
You mean they decided against having a,
They against that. So we can turn the organ on.
Okay, shall we turn the organ on?
Right, and we're going to show you something really fun and interesting. So I'm
Okay.
going to turn the organ on.
And we're going to move this camera. So if you're inclined to get seasick, just grab onto something.
Because here we go.
Yeah.
You tell me when you're ready.
Okay, and I'm following you.
Then you're going to the other side.
I'm going to the other side. Okay, we're going to the other side. Hold on, everybody. I'm going to try to hold this as level as I can. So here we have opened the side of the organ, and George is going to turn it on. And I have no idea what we're looking at, but I think we're going to see something.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, wow. Well, something just turned on. Can you all hear the wind now suddenly blowing? There is something now that wasn't there before. And that must be the wind, right, George?
So this is the wind, this is the reservoir, and down there,
Okay.
with the gold screws, that's the organ blower.
I see, the box in the middle.
Yeah, that's a brand new case that we created for the blower about 10 years ago. And there is a new blower in there that was put in also about 10 years ago. So
Right.
that creates the air. And then you see this piece of wood here.
That vertical
Yeah,
one?
the vertical one, that the wind from the blower goes up there
So that's a
into the
tube.
reservoir. Yeah, it's a tube.
You mean they have square plumbing?
I guess so.
Gosh.
Anyway, so there that is.
All right, so that's the
That's
this thing,
That's,
really?
yeah, that's right. That's the air duct, and then the wind goes up here,
All right.
and then the wind also then connects into the whole organ, into the chests.
So they look kind of like bellows, these things.
Bellows, absolutely right.
Does that create pressure too?
I believe so, yes,
Okay.
because when you're doing a lot of air or using all the pipes, you're using more air.
So how does that get regulated? I mean, the amount of air that goes in, that must be a fairly complicated.
It is, and I'm not a physicist, so I can't quite answer that question, but I know it is complicated. And when all the stops are pulled on this organ, it's very rare, but sometimes you can hear the organ go, oh, I don't want to let go of all that air. Sometimes the tuning goes a little bit, but we repaired a lot of that in the last sessions with Flentrop.
So I suppose that what that sounds like is it has to be, you have to have wind at the right pressure in order for it even to be the right tune, to be in tune.
That is correct.
Right,
And
okay.
when Flentrop came, when Fritz came in the early zeros,
Yeah.
they actually turned the wind pressure down on this organ.
So why would they do that?
They did that because the lower notes of the organ, the principal, were louder because we didn't have a lot of pedal notes. And so that was a compensation for having louder bass sounds. So
see.
they were able to turn the wind pressure down. And I remember walking in the church and Fritz said to me, now just relax, George, when you hear the organ, it's going to sound very different.
Okay.
We've turned the wind pressure down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really stunned at first. And then after sitting with it for a while, I realized, oh my gosh, that's so much better. It wasn't a forced sound like
Yeah.
it used to be.
So high pressure is not always better.
That is correct.
Gosh. So, okay, so you've used a few words. You've used pedal stops and you've talked about Flentrop. What is Flentrop? I know that's the company, but is it a style? I mean, is it?
No, the Flentrop firm is in Zaandam, Holland.
Okay.
And they're a very reputable firm.
Okay.
And the parish was very forward thinking when they decided to contract with the Flentrop firm in purchasing this organ and having it built. So it's a very small instrument in some regards, but also it's
Doesn't look very
quite
small.
large in its own right.
Yeah.
And you'll see that the case right here that we have,
Yeah.
that's the original case of the organ.
Oh, I see.
So in the early zeros, when we added the pedal division,
Mm-hmm.
this is what we added. So this case here was added in 2001.
Oh, wow.
And there are 4 pedal ranks here, which were actually intended to go in the original design of the organ.
Right. So it's sort of finished then?
It wasn't totally finished, but almost
I see.
finished. The interesting thing is, at the time, I was just reading in the notes, to do this work would have cost $8,000. The parish had raised $7,400, but for some reason the parish decided not to go through with the raising the additional $600. So back in the early zeros, then the parish paid about $120,000 to put this these 4 pedal ranks into the organ.
Yeah.
So let's look at some stops.
Okay, let's do some stops.
So if you look into the chest, you'll see me pulling some mechanisms here.
Wait, I don't know if I'm going to get in close so we can see. Oh, gosh. It's like the lanes of traffic at Frogger or something.
Those are the new pedal stops.
Okay.
Well, they're not new anymore. So those were never there in the original organ. Those are turning on the pipes.
Okay, so these are turning on the pipes in the background.
That's correct.
Okay, where do they, the camera can't quite see where they're coming from, but they're coming from that direction, which is, so when these are moving, when you're pulling on those knobs, that's what you mean by stops. Okay.
Yeah, those are the stops.
And they're
those
going,
are letting the air in.
Right, okay, so those are letting the air in. I don't know if you can see what's going on over here. They're connected to these mechanisms. And what are they doing? I see, those are moving left and right, which is turning on or closing air. Got it. This is a really mechanical instrument, isn't it? I mean,
there's a mechanical instrument indeed. Some people call organs large machines.
Large machines, well, that's for sure. I mean, this is not circuitry, although it looks like it. These are all mechanical levers and pulleys.
Right. It's all hand work. There's hardly any electronics. Well, there are no electronics in this organ.
Right.
There is some electricity right here in this mechanism.
Yeah, electricity here.
And that is called a tremulant. And I'm going to turn it on.
Okay. Oh, wow, do you see what's happening here? Oh, how funny. Okay.
And you'll hear what it does. I'll play a note.
Okay.
Then I'll turn the tremolo on.
Oh, it gives the organ vibrato.
It gives the organ vibrato.
Right. Gosh, look at that.
And when we were redoing the organ in the early zeros, the tremulant that we had on the organ wasn't all that successful.
Okay.
So we put a new tremulant on, and Janet Strothman, who passed away this week.
Oh, that's right. Gosh.
She was the person that gave this tremulant to the organ. So I like to think of it as the Janet Strothman tremulant.
Gosh, how fantastic. What an amazing device. It looks like the analog future, you know, or something like that.
Right. Let's go to the action.
Okay. Oh, the action. Oh, this is the exciting part. What is the action?
So, are you all watching? Because you don't get to see this very often. 1, 2, 3.
Oof. Wow. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. No, pay all attention to the man. And this is amazing. You can see these. You can see the other side of those
Stops.
Yeah, the stops, the rods and things that we were moving before, and these are different ones and more. Gosh, look at that.
Anyway, these are called trackers.
Okay.
And when you pull a stop, which is over here,
Okay.
You can see the mechanism working. Okay. And so it's very, very complicated and intricate work. And it's all, this is called a suspended action. And so it gives,
it's hanging?
it's hanging, yeah.
Okay.
The joy of a tracker organ is that the organist has very intimate connections with the key.
I see.
And the release of the sound. And you have that on a tracker organ. You don't have that as much on a different style of organ, which is called an electro-pneumatic organ. It's not as sensitive to touch.
So it's like driving a car without power steering.
That's an interesting.
Yeah, some people like that because they feel, I don't know, closer to the road or something. Is that why people like that? I don't know.
I guess so. It's easier, I guess.
So what you're saying is that when you press down on the key, it's your physical, actual pressure that is moving all of these mechanisms.
That is correct. And the mechanisms themselves open up the air underneath the chest of the pipes.
Right.
So there's a direct connection from the key all the way, even up there, where we're going to go in a few minutes, up to the...
I mean, that's a lot of pulleys to start pulling.
That's right.
So presumably then it would be harder to pull if you've got more stops to
That is correct.
open to work with.
That's right.
So this is a workout then.
It's a workout. But the action here, because we don't have a lot of stops, it's not all that heavy.
So when you say the action, is it just this stuff behind the panel, or do you include the keys with that too?
You include the keys.
And the pedals? Okay.
You include all of that. And then here we can show you, let's see, I'm going to get lights.
Here, I think I can even, uh-oh. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
So this is called the Bruce Spheric, or the second manual, or positif, if you will. There's lots of different names for it. But
And that's just the name of the chest.
That's the name of the name of this division.
So what's divisions?
The different sections of an organ. You can have what's called the great division, the choir division, the positif, the pedal.
And so divisions is just a particular grouping of pipes.
That's correct.
And are they controlled by a specific manual, or do you control them by the stops?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yeah. And depending upon the way the organ is built, you can move one register, if you will, to maybe 3 different manuals.
Oh, wow.
It just depends.
So one rank, what is that? Is that the whole set of pipes corresponding to the keys on the keyboard in one particular violin, say?
Yeah. So here's one rank of pipes of what's called the Gaudette stop.
Okay.
So there's an 8-foot stop here. And those are the pipes at the back of this case, the wood ones, the tall ones.
And so you're saying there's a separate pipe for every key that you're playing.
That is correct.
And there's a separate pipe for every key and every stop.
That is correct.
So that's why you get so many pipes then.
That's correct.
Okay, so every pipe only ever plays one note.
Well, no, not necessarily.
Okay.
We can have what's a mixture. I don't think this is going to stay there. I know I can do this. No, I can't.
Right here, I'll hold it.
You need to hold it.
Yeah. Anyway.
So there's a stop here on in this division called the sesquialter.
Okay.
And it has a Roman numeral 2 on it, which means that when I play the pipe, there are actually 2 pipes sounding, even though I'm playing 1 key.
I see.
And then,
those are harmonically written. They're not the same note.
No, they're not. I'm not sure what the configuration
Oh,
is.
interesting. So there's harmony built into the stops.
That is correct. Now on the great, which is way up there, there's another stop called the mixture.
Is it grade another division?
Yes, it's another division.
All right.
And this is a
And
4-rank mixture.
Okay.
So there are 4 pipes on that one note.
Right.
4 pipes.
Yeah. Wow.
So here's the string stop that I talked about earlier that doesn't sound like a string.
Yeah.
So that's the Gemshorn 2-foot.
That's the Gemshorn. So,
And
but why do
here's
they
the-
call it a string? Is that if it doesn't sound like a string? Is there a particular like pipe construction that makes it a string?
Yes, it, in the traditional sense, it's the type of metal that's used.
Really?
But I don't know why, it's called a gemshorn and it doesn't sound like a string. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Maybe somebody later on in the group can fill us in why that is.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the next thing we want to do is climb up
Okay.
into the organ. So let's take this.
yeah.
No, I'll take that away from you.
All right. What do they call it? Gantry or just?
Okay.
Okay. We're going on an adventure. And if you're seasick, hold on, because I'm going to have to pass up the camera. I don't want to climb up and hold the camera. So I will pass the camera and then follow. So we are going up. We are going up, everyone. Okay.
Be careful. And be careful of your head, Blake, on this earthquake brace. Be really careful.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
We're up.
I have to get the keys out. Wait, no, I should do this one.
The camera's going to go dark for a second as I try to find the flashlight on this iPhone.
You found it.
Hey, there we are. Oh, it doesn't stay on. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, let's see. Can you kneel for a second?
Okay. Right, we're ducking because.
Kneel even more. Because I'm gonna have to. Okay, now you're gonna have to walk over here.
Yeah, sure.
Here.
Oh gosh, I see what we're doing.
And this can't move any farther.
Yeah, great. Wow.
So here we are in the great division of the organ. I don't think probably any of you have ever seen this. I have to make sure that I don't fall. So don't let me go any 2 inches to the right or I'll fall down.
Okay.
But this is the great division of the organ. And so every stop that is on the bottom manual is living here,
Okay.
including our 16-foot Subas
Okay.
and our 8-foot Borden and 4-foot Quint that are in the pedal. The original pedal stops live in this case.
Okay.
And then if you look way at the top, you see that box with the silver,
Yeah,
the
the
little
little
silver
square
screws.
wooden thing. Yeah.
yeah, that's the Zimbelstern,
The cymbal stand. Okay.
okay? And that's the bells that we purchased in honor of Adele Hugo's 80th birthday.
Oh gosh.
And
Oh wait, that's the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
those are the Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars.
Got it.
Now, when we originally put that Zimbelstern on, it lived outside the case on top of the organ.
Right.
And so you could sort of see it. It didn't look terribly, good.
Yeah.
And when Flintrop came to do the work, he said, oh no, we need to put that inside the case.
Yeah.
So they climbed up there. I don't know how they
How do you
did that.
get in there?
Um,
Well, I guess you have to, right?
but they climbed up there, yeah. So, and the Zimbelstern are rotating bells, everybody. They go ding, ding, ding.
Gotcha.
So that's where those live, okay? Now, the other thing that might be interesting, Blake, is for you, let's see. Let's close this door. Let's have you.
Wait, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yep, absolutely.
What's with these? Some of these pipes have flat caps over them. Some of them are completely open, like these right in front of my nose here. And some of them have a little hole in their caps, and other ones have this funny little, sardine can peel, that's going down the side. And, some of them are these really colorful coppery looking things over here. And some you could be forgiven for thinking were just beams, these wooden boxes. I mean, what's with all that? Why the different tops and things? Or is that just what makes the different sound?
That's all about tuning. That's how you tune the pipes. So you've got cone tuning. These are cones here.
With the little hole in the
Yeah.
top. Okay.
This, I forget what that's called, but the tuner.
The sardine can.
The sardine can. You would sort of turn that up and down a little bit.
Right, okay.
The wood, can you see this over here?
Yeah.
This is a stopped pipe. So you would tune this pipe by moving this up and down.
Oh, how interesting. Okay.
That's how those work. And the same thing with the principal pipes, the copper pipes.
You call those principal pipes?
Those are the principal pipes. Those are the pipes that we see in the facade of the organ.
Okay.
Interestingly, I just learned this week that this is the last organ that Flintrop built with a copper facade.
Wow, okay.
So I found that very interesting.
Yeah.
But you've got the sardine type of tuning there as well. So you can tell that it's very, very, it's intricate and it's delicate. One of the joys of a tracker organ is that the tuning, if it's built really well, the tuning is minimal and maintenance is minimal.
Right.
Because everything here is mechanical. That doesn't mean that you don't have to keep the organ in repair.
You're saying that mechanics are more, mechanical things are more reliable than electric things?
Yes, I am.
Right, make of that what you will.
Yes. So anyway, this organ doesn't need to be tuned very much.
Okay.
The pedal reeds behind us.
Okay, we're going to go on a journey here.
We can't really see at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be dark. And the case is closed.
The case is totally closed.
So they're in there.
They're in there. But this is what I think might really interest people. Let's do a do-si-do. And
okay. So we're going to switch sides.
We're going to switch sides. Okay. Here we go. Be careful. Don't fall.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Don't fall.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what's really interesting is put the camera there and people can see the front of the church.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Through
you can
the
see
organ case.
Right through the pipes. Let's see if I move it. Maybe you can even see the cross over the, yeah, there's the cross over the root screen. And the altar down below. We'll keep moving, sort of looking through the blinds.
It's a view that nobody actually gets to see except the organ tuners.
Gosh, almost makes you want to build a choir loft or something.
That would be an interesting idea.
He says nothing. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to close this door.
So this really is kind of an open case up here, isn't it? I mean, it's not I mean, it's full, but it's not, it's not pipe on pipe on pipe. I guess you need room, like a music box or something, to make the sound.
Don't fall.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things I've learned with this organ is that not only do you have to tune the pipe, but you have to rotate it in such a way that when the sound, when the pipe is speaking, it's not hitting another pipe in a way that affects its tuning.
Oh, how interesting.
So it has to do with the placement of the pipe too, not just having it in tune.
Right.
Now, one of the joys is that we have this fluorescent light in the organ case. That's why you can actually see.
Right.
The organ was never built with any lighting in the case. And in the early zeros, when we worked on the organ, we decided to put in some lighting in the case.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I can't imagine tuning it without.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Now, what we didn't do when we put the pedal division in, we didn't put a light in. And it's very difficult to get into the pedal case and tune.
So you're going to open those
No,
doors?
I'm not. It's just,
Well, it's so dark. I don't know that we could see it.
We can't really
anyway.
see. It's going to be too dark.
All right.
But I think we can go back down now.
Okay. So,
well, actually, you know what might be interesting?
Yeah.
Do we have time for this?
Okay. Again, the lock.
Oh no, you don't want to do that. You're going to fall.
Yeah. That would not be ideal.
Come on, baby.
There it goes. Okay.
So So here are some real close-ups of the teeny pipes. This is in the Great Division. Here are the tiny reed pipes. And with the reed pipes, you can see this little wire here. That's how you tune the pipe. You go up and down with a special little metal rod. But here you are at the bottom of the case.
So what are some of these stops labeled? I mean,
We'll go down and
Okay.
talk about that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure we had time to get people into the organ because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is something that, again, people just don't see. They hear the organ, but they don't see it.
I suppose all of these pipes that you're seeing are all different stops. I mean, these
They're
aren't
all
just-
different stops.
Right.
Right.
This isn't just one stop living here.
Right. So the pipes that I'm pointing to right here, everybody, you'll see that there are 4 pipes in a row and it's on its own chest. So this is the mixture right here. Remember I told you a few minutes ago about this pipe, this one note has 4 pipes. That's right here. There are 4 pipes in the same chest. So that's the mixture. Those are the really high sounds. And right behind the mixture, right here, these pipes here, that's the dulcian, that's the reedy sound, which we can look at in a little bit.
Is that the real growly sound?
It's the growly sound,
Yeah, okay.
on the keyboard. Okay, so I think it's time to go down now. Don't fall.
Okay. All right. You'll go down first, and then I'll pass you the phone. And again, if you're seasick, maybe just
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes. While George is on the way down, I won't film him. I'll just hold it over here.
I'll come on and shut everything up later.
Okay. Okay, he's ready. So I'll pass the phone to George, and then he's not going to film me. And we'll see you down below.
Neither of us fell off the organ.
Yeah, hey. Thanks be to God.
How are we doing?
Te Deum laudamus. Yeah, we're great.
Okay, so the copper pipes, the ones that we see in the front of the organ, that's called the prestant.
Okay.
And you'll note that the lowest note here is the big pipe in the middle.
Right, okay.
The next one that has to step up goes to the right. Then the next note goes to the left,
Okay.
to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, and back and forth.
Gotcha.
So when you're playing the organ, the sound is evenly dispersed.
Right. In stereo.
In stereo, yes. So that's the Preston's. And again, it's the facade of the organ.
Yeah.
And some facades are truly facades, which mean that they don't speak at all. They're just fake pipes.
They're fake pipes.
But these are
Why
real
fake
pipes.
pipes?
Just because of the way the organ is built.
Right.
So that's the Preston's.
Okay.
And it's an 8-foot stop, which means that that middle pipe, the low note, is 8 feet long.
Wow.
And as you go up, the pipes, of course, get shorter. The next stop on the grade is called the roar flute. That's
Okay.
a flute sound. And those are some pipes that you saw when we were upstairs
Yeah.
sounding. A 4-foot octave is a little higher. A 4-foot flute. A 2-foot octave, really high sounds. A mixture sound. And here's that reed stop that I was showing you at the very end, the grovelly sound. So when we pull out all the stops, you can hear the different timbres and the tonal quality, which on a Flentrop is quite elegant and fine.
Yeah.
Then over here, we talked about this already, the 8-foot flute, the 4-foot flute, the 2-foot Gemshorn, the 1-foot flageolet, the sesquialter, the tremolo, which I showed you already, and here's the Zimbelstern,
Oh, that's right, the twinkle stars.
the twinkle stars for Christmas.
You know, it's so interesting when you're playing now this other set just now, the sound, I can hear, you can't hear it on the Zoom, but I can hear it coming from the middle of the organ, whereas the other stuff you were playing, I could hear coming from up here.
Correct. So these stops here
Yeah.
are right here.
Okay,
These stops live way up there.
I see. Right, so these are the two big divisions of the organ.
Sorry?
These are the two big divisions of the organ?
Yes, and then the third division is the pedal
Right,
division.
okay.
And those are here.
And that's what there's behind in those dark cabinets we didn't open.
Well, these are the original pedal stops of the organ.
Right, okay.
This is all there was when this organ was built.
Yeah.
And these three stops
I'm gonna
here,
come around you.
okay, these three stops lived in these three holes.
Okay.
When we did the work in the early zeros, we added this stop, the Preston's,
Yeah.
the 4-foot octave, the 16-foot fagot, and the 8-foot Schalmei. So the new pedals sound like this. The original organ, this was the extent of the pedal sound. That was it,
It's a lot gentler.
a lot gentler.
Nice to have a little growly pedal.
We'd want some growly pedal. People loved it when it came in.
Yeah.
So I think, oh, one other thing to show you. We have these panels
Okay.
here that we can put into the Brussberg doors if we want to let this division be a little softer.
Okay.
So it sort of acts like a sweat shade, if you will.
A sweat. Okay. So it just, you know, it softens it, like a mute on a brass instrument
Correct.
or something. Okay.
So now the sound, this is as soft as the organ can sound. It's sort of like Venetian blinds. So when they're closed,
Oh, wow.
there's a little crescendo.
Yeah, it makes a difference. You know, I see sometimes that when we have recitalists here, they'll open or close those, sometimes even in the middle of a song, although relatively infrequently in the middle of something.
Correct.
But
Yep. Just depends upon the player, what their philosophies are. And,
is that cheating?
No.
To open and close it? Okay.
no, not at all. If the organ was off, I could open this up for you because this is where the wind is living wind for this division.
What do you mean it's living wind? It's
There's
just-
wind in here,
Right, okay.
but I'm not going to take that off.
Gosh, how wild.
And you can see some of the dust.
Yeah.
Might be time to clean the organ again in a few years. Oh, the other thing that's really exciting is about 6 years ago, we added this new light
Okay.
here and a new light for the pedals. The original light, well, there was no original light to begin with. And then
You just had to memorize everything.
a light was added. Oh no, there was a floor light here. When I got here, there was a big black floor light.
Okay.
Then when we did the organ, when we did the pedal editions, Flentrop built a new fluorescent light here, which was okay for its time.
Yeah.
And then I think 5-6 years ago, Flentrop designed yet a new light for us, which is halogen and much nicer, and a new pedal mix.
Gosh.
So I think, let's see, it's 4:45, so maybe it's time for questions.
Hey, that's a good idea. Hey, so for questions, bear with me. I'm going to hook this thing back up to the tripod for questions, and then I'm going to do my best to monitor who has a question. But on a phone, it's going to be a little bit on the tough side to see who has a question. So maybe if you can just be kind enough to unmute yourselves, and then don't, you know, talk over each other and just have at it.
What is the
I'll jump in.
coupler? The coupler.
Okay, Peg, what is the coupler?
What is the coupler? Good question, Peg. I didn't cover that. So, Blake will need to come.
Okay, all right, I'm just gonna move the whole tripod, which I think I can do. Do you want me to be on the right side or the left?
Right over here.
Okay.
So on this organ, there are mechanical couplers. And if you pull out this stop for the grate, and I push this coupler down, you'll see that I can play those sounds with my feet in the pedal. So the grate has been coupled to the pedal. Then here's the second manual, this manual to the pedal, same thing. You can see the keys going down because it's all mechanical. And then this third coupler couples the top manual to the bottom manual. And you can see that I'm playing these stops on the bottom manual. So coupling puts things together. Okay.
So there's nothing, those pedals look like 3 pedals under a piano. They're nothing alike.
No, they're couplers.
Right.
And these are mechanical. And this little button here is another mechanism to turn on the Zimbelstring.
Right.
This electric switch on the organ besides the tremolo.
Wow, that looks like an emergency brake.
Right, so there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
There's the and then the foot's start. Other questions?
Could you play the lowest note on the organ and the highest note on the organ?
Here's the lowest note on the organ.
Can you even hear that?
No.
Let's see, I'll get really close, or as close as I can. You sort of feel it more than hear it.
Or a couple, or a covered.
Oh, it might be too low even for the microphone to pick up.
And then the highest note is this one.
Oh, interesting. This may be too high for the microphone to pick up too.
Not hearing either one.
Limited by, again, digital technology. All right. So that's the lowest and the highest, both inaudible. I'm sorry.
No, definitely the highest one we heard. Some
Heard
of it
that.
I was hearing. You can that was like the dog whistle, but
Right.
you could hear it.
Great.
What other questions do you have or insights?
If you can type them into the comments too, and that's
Okay.
for me on a
Probably
phone.
the best way to do it.
Yeah,
On the chat?
yeah, on the chat. Okay.
Okay.
What is the wood of the organ?
The wood, a really good question, Jonathan. It's African mahogany.
African mahogany. Gosh.
Yes, African mahogany. I just read that a couple days ago.
And that's the outside of the case?
Yeah, that's all the wood that we see.
Okay.
And what was really exciting was that when we decided to add the pedal, build the new pedals, they still had wood in the shop that would match this case.
Oh, wow.
So you can't even tell that it's a different wood.
Wow. There you go.
Other questions?
Yes. Why do people like to play our organ?
Why do people like to play this organ? Because it's very well built, it's sensitive, it has beautiful sounds, it's clear, it has a really high level of integrity, it keeps the artist truthful, it doesn't hide your sins, and it's a friend. It's a very friendly instrument. And it responds well to a person's touch, and that goes back to the Rosemary, the idea of playing a tracker organ. It's very responsive to what the organist is doing or not doing.
We've got a couple questions in the chat. The first one, is the lowest note from a stopped pipe or is it the real 16-foot?
It's a stopped pipe. I'm pretty sure it's a stopped pipe.
Fake 32. Yeah.
Okay, next. Is the curved AGO paddleboard original or was it exchanged later?
It's original. There's been some discussion about the fact that it should be a flat pedal board, but it was like this in its original design, and I don't have any interest in putting a straight pedal board on. Good question.
Okay, another question. If you could add anything else to the organ, what would it be?
Well, that's an interesting question. One thing I would love to add right here would be a 16-foot Preston or a 16-foot Borden. I have a 16-foot in the manual. Another stop that I would love to have on this organ is a 16-foot trumpet, which would live down here. Or an 8-foot trumpet, I'm sorry, an 8-foot trumpet. And then over here, I'd love to have an 8-foot string stop or a violone stop or a solitional and a celeste stop that we talked about at the beginning part of this broadcast. And an 8-foot regal. A little reed stop, but none of that's possible. So the dream of trying to add something more to this organ, it's maxed out. There's no more room to add anything to the organ.
So what would you do? How could you supplement such an instrument? Or would you just have to give up, or would you add a second? Could you, if you put something up in the chancel, could you control it from here? Or not with a tracker?
No.
Okay. Huh.
No. I mean, it's interesting because in the records of the church, the design that was the larger design, interestingly enough, the case went around the window.
Okay.
And,
back up so you can see.
And then also there's paperwork that the organ was actually going to live over there between those two arches.
Which two arches?
The arch number, here's 1, 2, and 3. It was going to live right there.
Oh, how interesting, right in the middle of things.
Right in the middle of things.
Huh.
I was just reading some more correspondence about that. And that's when the choir was still in the chancel.
Right, okay.
But then there's just
Preparation.
work and the choir back here. I was reading vestry notes about that and worship committee notes.
Right.
They're quite good.
Yeah, how
minutes.
interesting. Okay, we've got another question, and that is, could you demonstrate some different touches?
Sure. So one touch is legato, which if you play the piano, you know what that means. It's as smoothly connected as you can. And here's what would be affectionately called Baroque touch, space between notes. You can't play legato with one finger. And so that's why it's a good way to show the touch, how it sounds just a little bit different. And that helps create rhythm, rhythm vitality and rhythmic precision.
Okay, more questions. Well, we sort of answered these, but is there room in the existing case for those I'd love to have pipes?
There is not.
Okay. Another one, I wonder how much higher a pitch organ can make compared to piano. And what's your favorite organ? I mean, can an organ reach higher frequency notes than a piano?
I don't know. I would assume so, because this is pretty high.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't compare that to the highest note on a piano. I don't know.
I mean, that's more of a squeak.
I mean, it
note.
sounds like a
I can't
squeak.
imagine a piano making.
I mean, I can't even discern a pitch with that, but I'm not a dog, so I don't know.
There you go.
And my favorite organ, to be honest with you, I think my favorite organ is probably the one that I'm playing at the moment.
Yeah. This Flintrop, you mean?
But this Flintrop, yes. I mean, this is a lovely organ. There are many wonderful organs that I've had the opportunity to play because I've been in Europe with Jonathan, who's been doing many recitals over the years. And there are just some amazing instruments. And I do have to say, I do like the organ of Westminster Abbey. I have to say, I do like that organ very much. But this organ here, I think, is well crafted for the room. And it's certainly a product of its time. And
Do you mean by that Baroque or the late 20th, the mid?
the neo-Baroque period.
Neo-Baroque, okay.
Neo-Baroque,
Okay.
yeah. For what it is, it's lovely.
Gosh. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a world of difference, but you know, what is the difference between the Westminster Abbey organ and this organ? I mean, obviously size probably, but what else? Is it a different kind of instrument? I mean, what's the difference?
There's lots of differences. One is, like the Westminster Abbey organ has tons of different timbres, if you will, and they have swell shades, which this sort of functions as a swell shade.
Yeah.
So you can hold a chord and get it, and you can play this, open up the swell shades, and it will get loud and soft. So you can do a lot more romantic music, if you will.
I see.
On organs like that. It gives you much more expansiveness. It's like an accordion.
You kind of got to be a composer in order to play the organ, don't you? It sounds like. Because you're always deciding what instruments to deploy within the pipe structure for the music you're playing.
Yes, or at least have an idea of orchestration.
Yeah. Wow.
And on, like on the Westminster Abbey organ, they have what's called pistons.
Okay.
And you can set different buttons, which will pull out different stops and that sort of thing. But you can have tracker organs with pistons as well. But this organ is basically, it's just too small to warrant having pistons. But, you know, as Fritz Elschat always taught me when he was here, he said, organists have one thing in common. They always want one more stop. They're never happy with what's there. They always want one more. And he's right. There's always something to wish that you had more of. Other questions?
There are a few still in the chat. One question, how long do tracker organs last?
They last a very long time. If you go to Europe, there are organs that are tracker organs that have been there for 400 years, 500 years.
Oh, wow. Could this last that long then?
Absolutely.
Wow, what a
treasure.
treasure.
It's built well enough. I mean, I don't know how the weather will impact it over the next decades and centuries. Yes, organs can last a long time if they're built well and maintained. There is minimal leather in this organ, and we had to replace the leather probably 15 years ago. But
Leather,
yes,
what's the leather for?
it's just part of the fabric of the organ.
Right,
There's-
okay.
It
The
has
switches
to do
and
with the
pulleys and
cases,
things.
yeah.
Okay, one question that a practically minded person asks is, how much is the organ insured for?
The last I looked, I was actually looking at that today.
Yeah.
I saw some files up on that. Probably not enough is probably
Never
the answer.
enough.
It's never enough. I think maybe 10 years ago we did an estimated cost of replacement, and I don't remember what it was. But that's a good question to get a better handle on it again.
Okay, we've got another comment. The organ is well suited to support congregational singing. I mean, it certainly seems so to me anyway. I mean, it's...
Absolutely. I mean, the way that Steckedy, who was the main designer of the organ, and the whole Flintrop firm voiced this organ for this room, they did a fantastic job.
So what is voicing?
Making, knowing how loud the pipes should be, the quality of the sound, and how it works in the acoustic.
Right. So you can change the individual volume of a pipe on top of the tuning of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, gosh.
When you're designing it.
Okay. Okay, another question about the Westminster Abbey organ. Do they have a 32-foot stop?
Absolutely. They probably have 3 or 4. I don't
Gosh.
know. If Jonathan Dimmick's on this call, he can probably answer that question because he was the organ
They
scholar.
have 3.
How many?
They have 3.
They have 3. Thank you.
Gosh. Okay, next one. Isn't Bach's original tracker organ in Germany, in Leipzig, still in use?
Jonathan, can you answer that question?
It was destroyed in World War II.
Oh, gosh. Tragic.
But there are several instruments that he was intimately involved with, including the design of them, which are still in use.
Was the church destroyed too and has now been rebuilt? Is that what's happened?
No, the residence where he lived was destroyed, which happened to have been the choir school by a bomb, but the church was not hit.
Okay. Gosh, tragic. Okay, one more question. What's the wind pressure before and after?
I don't know the number of the wind pressure, but as I mentioned earlier, the wind pressure was turned down on the organ. But I don't know what the exact frequency was. I just don't know. I'm sorry.
But we're pretty close to 5. Are there any other questions? We've got time for maybe one more. All right. George, any parting words?
No, I hope this was enjoyable for all of you. Of course, Blake and I spent a lot of time rehearsing this.
No, we just thought we'd go on a little adventure, really, and look at some of the fascinating and little seen components of this and just explore a little bit this organ and what makes organs tick in general.
Right. So it's certainly a pleasure for me and for all the people who play here and the students at Berklee who have their lessons here to have time on this incredible instrument. It's such a wonderful teacher and it's a wonderful friend. And the parish, as I've said before over the years, is so supportive of the instrument and the music that the instrument can play and the role of church music here. And I think in the bulletin or in the Evensong program, there was a listing of our recitalists for this coming year. And I'm happy to report that next month on October 11th, Frederic Blanc will be playing. He's will be providing us a video from his church in Paris. And in November, we will also have another Parisian organist, Laurent Jochum, will be playing. Again, it will be a video concert for us. In December, Chris Keaty, who's the assistant at Grace Cathedral, will be playing a recital here live for us. In January, Brett Judson, who was a graduate of Yale and is now living in Folsom, California at Trinity Church, he will be giving us a concert live here. In February, Nick Cordocos, who's the assistant organist at St. Thomas Fifth Avenue in New York, he will either be here, he will either come here to play for us, or he will give us a live stream concert from St. Thomas Church. In March, Jerry Lenk, who's the organist at Mission Dolores in San Francisco, he will give us a live concert here. In April, a young man named David Lim, who's a doctoral student in the Midwest and is organist at St. Philip's Church in Ardmore, Oklahoma, will be giving a concert here. On May 9th, Jeremy Bruns, the organist of Church of the Advent in Boston, will be either here playing a live concert or doing a live stream for us from Boston. And on June 13th, Susan Jane Matthews from St. Paul's Church in Burlingame will be giving a live concert here. So that's the roster for this year. I'm sorry we didn't have a concert for you today, but the recitals had to cancel as well as next month, and it took a lot of scrambling to get the roster set up. But I'm delighted that we're able to continue the concerts for our 35th season, and then next year will be the big 50th birthday bash for the Flintrop. So we're already in the midst of planning for that. So I appreciate your support for the continuation of the series. And if you're able at this time to give a donation, Of course, the church is always welcoming your money to support the series.